And then there's a lot of other stuff that can be in there as well.
Clicker clacker.
Do you know what it's actually called?
Nope.
No?
We in. What's up? I caught you mid-drink. You weren't ready for that. We in. What's up? What's going on, guys?
Hola.
Welcome to the Chris and Kyle Show. He is Chris. I am Kyle. Welcome to the finale of Spider-Man week. This is the big one. It's been a good week celebrating Spider-Man. And this is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
We're both wearing our Spider-Man t-shirts.
In honor, dude. I think I wore this for the Spider-Man 3 episode, too.
Yeah.
But we recorded it like weeks ago.
A while ago,
so,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I don't think I wore this t-shirt.
You what?
I said I'm not sure if I wore this t-shirt or not. I only have one Spider-Man t-shirt.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. No, I thought you would have had more.
I know I get why you would think that, but I don't.
Do you have any superhero that you have multiple t-shirts
No.
of? Really? So you just have one for each?
Wait, I
All
take
of
that
them.
back. So I have some that like I got for like Christmas that I don't like. So I never like they still have tags on them. I've just never worn them.
Okay.
So like I have like some Batman. I like a Batman one I don't like, but I have my normal Batman one that I wear a lot. So there's a couple that I do have repeats of, but I just don't wear them. I should donate them or something. That'd be really good of me. Instead of just having them sit around, right?
Yeah. True.
Cool.
Do you have one for every comic book character?
I
ever?
wish, dude. No, not yet.
Do you have
One day.
Do you have a Black Cat t-shirt?
No, but that'd be tight.
Yeah.
You know why it'd be tight? Because there's weird jokes there to be made. I'm just not going to make them. Because if like someone saw a Black Cat shirt and was like, that's a dope shirt, I would be like, yeah, they get it.
Yeah.
That's like those kinds of shirts I like.
Yeah. It's like inside joke. It's an inside
Kind
joke.
of.
Yeah. Like you're informed.
Like I saw somebody wearing a Community shirt the other day and it was just like a bunch of 8-bit, like the cast, but done like an 8-bit art.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, yo, that's an awesome Community shirt. And he was like, hell yeah. And I was like, hell yeah. And we had a moment. And then we never spoke.
cool.
Then we never spoke again.
That's cool. You know what I want? I want the sweater that Eddie Murphy wears in Beverly Hills Cop. Because it's like it's not his high school, but it's like a friend's like local high school or some shit like that. It was like a legit high school. And he fucking wore it for the entire movie.
Okay.
I was like, that's fucking.
That's a good
so
reference.
weird.
That's a
so
good reference. Yeah. Because then if somebody was like a big Beverly Hills Cop fan, they'd see you in that sweater. They'd be like, yo, that's dope. And you'd be like, that's dope. And then you never talk to each other again.
We're not talking about Spider-Man.
We will, though. You want to know about this movie? You want to know a little something? Let's see here. You want me to read you a little synopsis? Miles Morales becomes the Spider-Man of his reality and crosses paths with his counterparts from other dimensions to stop a threat to all reality. Some big stakes.
All of reality.
Literally.
Because it's not just the world.
It's literally all reality. Yeah.
There's multiple worlds.
So we got 3 directors on this movie. Bob, I want to say persnickety, but I know it's wrong. It's Persichetti? Yeah. Peter
Okay.
Ramsey and Rodney Rothman. And I think the more important creative voices behind... No, I don't want to take anything away from the directors. They did an amazing job. But I think that Phil Lord and Chris Miller are the sort of more creative voice of the movie. You know, like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't want to be mean to the director. Like, obviously, the directors had a lot of creative input, and visually, the movie is stunning. But you can really feel the voices of Phil Lord and Chris Miller, I think, and their writers on it, along with a bazillion other people. There's a lot of writers on this movie. There's so many. A lot of them are like characters by or random stuff. Important cast. Shamik Moore, star of the film, plays Miles Morales, a.k.a. Spider-Man.
You might know him from Dope.
Yep.
You
You might know him from The Get Down.
Yeah, The Get Down.
Then Jake Johnson as Peter B. Parker, a.k.a. Spider-Man. If you know Jake Johnson, you probably know him from New Girl. He was also in Jurassic World and The Mummy. He was in The Mummy. Poor guy. Haley Steinfeld plays Gwen Stacy, a.k.a. Spider-Woman. You might know her from when she
Being
was
a
really young.
superstar.
on True Grit. Yeah, she's a superstar. She was in True Grit when she was a kid. She was in the Pitch Perfects 2 and 3. She's in the new Bumblebee movie that's coming out next week that we may or may not be doing a spoiler episode on. Who knows? That's up to you people. And she's in a bunch of stuff. She's great. I really like Haley Steinfeld. I think she's really good.
She's also a singer. Did you say that?
Yes, she's also a singer. Mahershala Ali, Dat Boy.
Yeah.
Dat Boy as Uncle Aaron. And because this is a spoiler episode, I'm going to say it. The Prowler. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. If you don't know who Mahershala Ali is, get with it. Upcoming season 3 of True Detective. Why can't I think of the name of the movie he won an Oscar for? Because it's the tip of the tongue.
Moonlight, yeah.
Thank you,
Moonlight.
Yeah, Moonlight. Yeah, Mahershala Ali is amazing. How deep should I go with this? Because there's a big cast, but that's kind of the... Well, I mean, Brian Tyree Henry's his dad. He's pretty important.
Yeah, Brian Tyree Henry,
who's from Atlanta. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And the upcoming If Beale Street Could Talk, made by the same Barry Jenkins, the director of Moonlight. There's a lot more people.
Lily Tomlin as Aunt
Lily
May.
Tomlin. Nick Cage as Spider-Man Noir. John Mulaney as Spider-Ham.
Yeah.
Chris Pine as Peter Parker in the beginning of the movie. That was a cool surprise cameo.
So let's start talking about the movie itself, right? So when we were originally watching that movie, they show the Spider-Man in Miles Morales' universe, right? The Peter Parker.
Miles
of
Morales is just a regular high school kid, and there is a Spider-Man. Classic idea of Spider-Man running around.
Right, and there's these intros that they keep doing.
They keep going back to.
Throughout the entire movie, they do it like maybe 4 or 5
They go
times.
like, let's start from the beginning, and they keep doing it for all the different versions.
And
of Spider-Man.
they show the origin stories of all of the different Spider-Men. But the first time that they do it is this Spider-Man that's existing in Miles Morales' universe, and the voice was like different.
You caught it. I thought it was just Jake Johnson doing a voice, putting a voice.
The reason that I caught it, I think, so quick is because I've seen the trailer and I've heard
Jake Johnson.
Jake Johnson.
See, I agree with I was like I could tell when it was Jake Johnson for sure, but I just thought Jake Johnson was doing a voice, like lowering his voice and doing.
And I was like, that's not Jake Johnson. And then I thought about it for a second. I was like, it's probably the Spider-Man that exists in Miles Morales.
Yeah, I thought the same thing
because I knew that
Jake Johnson
was from a different universe because of the French fry scene.
Henceforth, Chris Pine Spider-Man will be known as Blonde Spider-Man, so that we can differentiate between all of the Spider-Men while we talk about them.
Okay.
So he's Blonde Spider-Man.
All right.
And then there's Hobo Spider-Man.
which
Miles
is
normal Spider-Man. Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, Spider-Gwen, or Spider-Woman. Robo Spider-Girl? Spider-Girl with a robot spider?
All right, so how pardon the pun, how well versed are you with the Spider-Verse?
Pretty well versed. I've literally read the Spider-Verse comic.
Okay, so do you know that character?
Penny Parker's the only one that I didn't know anything about. And there are different versions. So when her name was Penny Parker, I thought it was going to be Spider-Man's daughter from another dimension, but it's not. She's from the future.
Okay.
And she has a telepathic link with a spider who can move a robot?
Yeah.
She's weird. I didn't know anything about her. She's a weirdo character.
It's straight out of anime.
Yeah, and we can talk about the animation a little bit. Literally, her scenes are done in anime style, while other characters are done in different anime. It's super cool the way this movie is visually. It's one of the most beautiful things. Like the cityscapes and the climax scene, the collider explosion and everything going on, beautiful. Just so cool looking.
Yeah. So there's a lot of amazing things about this movie. The art style for sure. It's not like anything that you've really ever seen.
And the
before.
homage to comics,
there's a lot
homage to comics that they do throughout the visuals.
Yeah, I
they literally do panels at certain points, and they do thought bubbles and stuff like that.
Like I've heard other people talk about like, oh well, like they're trying to mimic the comics when they're talking about it like a visual style. There's other movies that like almost try to do that, or like, you know, when they're going for their own visual style, people will try to attribute that attempt to that style.
Yeah.
But this movie is the closest I've seen to a comic book come to life.
Yeah. So colorful and vibrant.
But the actual the style of it, it exacerbates the imperfections of something called offset printing. I don't know if you came across this in your research or anything.
No.
So offset printing is like literally how you print newspapers or comic books or anything like that, right? But it's different than digital printing and how they're like there's rollers and like multiple colors for each roller and shit, and like you push it. It's really complicated. I watched a YouTube video on it and it made me feel stupid. But it's different in digital printing in that like the imperfections that come out are more different. It's its own style, you know, so that when you see certain things in this movie that literally like they look like flaws, but it adds it adds taste to it, and a feeling to it that's like really.
Did you know
really
that
fucking fun.
Sony is patenting the technology they use to animate this movie?
Really?
Yeah, it's like all new technology.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like all of the little dots that you see, like whenever you look at the lights and any light source within the frame, there's always dots there. And there's always like certain times when you'll see the outlines of people. Like you'll see the blue and pink like overlap.
Yep.
There's a lot of like really fun stuff. There's dialogue bubbles that will fucking come across the screen while people are saying things. The onomatopoeias and shit that will pop up when people are fighting, and it goes, or like, you know,
or
when
they're falling, it says woo or something like that.
Yeah, it says woo, and then fucking like when there's someone, it says thwip. Yeah,
it's gotta have thwip.
Yeah,
gotta
super
have
fucking it's super fun.
Yeah.
So beyond the animation style, what are some of the other good things that you liked about this movie?
Everything.
Everything.
I liked everything about this movie. I was trying to think, like, I didn't sit down and like look at every movie that came out this year, but this is easily in my top 5 of movies that came out this year. Easily. Like, it might be my favorite movie of the year. This movie is so good. Besides the animation, I think obviously the characters are amazing.
Right.
They're amazing. The acting is great. Right. The voice acting is really great. The story is really good. Like, I mean, the story isn't anything like groundbreaking in any way, but it's just executed so well.
This movie is what you get when you have people that are not only crazy talented, but are super passionate about a specific project, right? Which
and I think
Phil Lord and Chris Miller,
I think respect what they're adapting a lot, because the one thing that I thought of after watching this, I just thought about like something that using all of these different Spider-Man characters in one movie, and while they're also different and diverse in their own character also while being Spider-Man, it just speaks to like how the character of Spider-Man created by Stan Lee so many years ago, and Steve Ditko, shout out Steve Ditko, like the character of Spider-Man is universal. The greatest thing about Peter Parker, about Spider-Man, about Miles Morales, about any of these characters is that anyone can watch a Spider-Man movie or read a Spider-Man comic and relate to the character so easily. And I think that's the greatest strength of Spider-Man. And that sings through this movie. Yeah,
the relatability of a character like that, which was why it was so it's unparalleled for any other character in comic books at the time, right? Because like
that was Stan Lee's goal with Marvel's comics, was to create. He saw Superman, and everyone back then was so amazed by Superman because of what Superman could do, and kind of what Superman stood for, truth, justice, and the American way. But Stan Lee wanted to take it one step further, and he wanted to make characters who had problems, and they were real people, and he wanted the flaws to be important to the characters, and that's why there's so many great Marvel characters, and I think Peter Parker is the best of them.
Right. But Peter Parker, like, it was so anti what everybody else was doing at the time, as far as being, big, buff, strong dudes.
Yeah, he's slender.
He's a slender fucking high school
He's
kid.
a slender goof.
Yeah. But that's something that Phil Lord and Chris Miller can just really nailed with the creation of this. And it's not just the writing, which the writing is fucking really good. But listening... I heard, I watched a lot of interviews with them both talking about this project, and their ability to hack into what is good about a project and then develop everything around that. So they aren't, you know, A to B to C type creators.
Yeah.
In a way that like, all right, we're going to write the script, we're going to get the actors, and then we're going to make this movie. Right. They had, so they wrote the script, fucking had Shamik Moore and Jake Johnson in the same room and had them read the script, and do lines for their respective characters, Spider-Man and Peter B. Parker, right? Hobo Spider-Man.
Spider-Man and Hobo Spider-Man.
And Hobo Spider-Man. They found what the dynamic was between those two and then went back and then wrote the scene around what that dynamic was in order to bring out the best life in that.
And
which
it
I was
works
like,
so well.
yeah. And but that experimentation of it is fucking something it's kind of missing in a lot of things. And you can tell like when something just comes off as stale, or when you're watching a movie and you're like, oh man, they should have fleshed that out a little bit more. I really enjoyed that part. That kind of experimentation adds to the creation of something.
Yeah, for sure. And I just think also leaning into your talent that much and giving them their own voice makes the characters that much better.
True. Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
Even if you had no idea that Jake Johnson was in this movie, but you've seen New Girl, you would be like, oh, that's like Nick Miller.
Right.
Like, it's just so Jake Johnson.
Yeah.
Throughout the film. It's just like they could have made a live action movie with Jake Johnson dressed as Spider-Man. It would have been the exact same.
But it still fits with Peter B. Parker though.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's not like Jake Johnson is doing his Jake Johnson thing and you're like, oh, this doesn't really like
no, it fits
fit
perfectly.
Me. Yeah. Like it sings true. Yeah. And it was fucking super fun. One word I would use to describe this movie is kinetic. It fucking
for sure
moves really, really
movement.
well.
And
it
not just the story moving along or the action moving. It's just the sort of pace that you feel through everything. Every movement, every shot, every scene has that energy.
Yeah, I would say like anybody that's like not interested in this movie, right? And you're still watching.
If you're
this
like,
episode,
I don't watch cartoons, they're for kids, or I don't like comic book movies, they're for
or like if the animation style is sort of like rubbing you the wrong way or whatever, I would absolutely recommend this movie. And you
give it a chance.
This is one of those things that you could really recommend to anybody. I don't know
anybody.
I mean, like it's something that you could take your kids to watch. It's rated PG or whatever.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
It's rated PG. It's like the first Spider-Man movie that's rated PG, because all the rest of them are PG-13. Fucking another thing that I thought was great. Their attention to detail is something that I loved.
Okay.
They do something with this movie where, because it's in a different universe, because you're in the Miles Morales universe, which you don't really pick up on that at first.
No, it's just they present it as the real world because Miles is our main character.
Exactly.
So to him,
but then you find out that like his universe is not the one that our normal Peter Parker is
That's
from.
Earth 616.
Earth 616.
Yeah.
But when you look around, like because he's in New York City, like he'll swing through New York City later on in the film. When you find out that he's in a different universe, you see all of these pop culture references.
Chance 4.
So
Steph Curry as a golfer.
Yeah.
Seth Rogen starring in a jockey movie. There's so many. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah. But there's all
Trust
these
Us
things.
Bank. Did you catch that one?
No, I didn't.
Trust Us Bank.
Yeah, but like
PDNY.
it's really,
They don't call it NYPD. They call it PDNY.
PDNY.
Yeah.
Which I heard that in the trailer, and I was like, "Is that something that they're doing?
Yeah.
Like, why are they doing
why
that?" Yeah, but that's really fun.
That just, I think, gives depth to the world. It feels like the world is real.
Yeah.
When you see stuff like that.
Another fucking really interesting thing when I was looking through the IMDb trivia, right? So apparently Miles does, like when he's in the beginning of the film, when he's walking through the courtyard of the school,
Of the school
or whatever,
he used to go to?
right? He does a handshake with somebody that is the exact same handshake that Peter and Ned have in Spider-Man: Homecoming.
For real?
Yeah.
Whoa, that's
so it's like
cool.
little
It's
shit
just
like
little
that.
references like
Yeah.
that. Well, I mean, and they do it's more overt in the beginning of the movie, but blonde Spider-Man, Chris Pine's Spider-Man, basically has the exact same backstory as Tobey Maguire from the Spider-Man 1 through 3. And they talk about, like the dance scene, and he's like, yeah, I also did that, but we don't talk about it. Like they reference things from these different Spider-Man universes, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's super meta. Like,
I don't know if I caught anything Andrew Garfield wise though. Not off the top of my head. They said push that away.
Yeah. It's also such like a timely release too. Like, would you agree with that? I mean, because you had the release of, when did Spider-Man the game come out?
Maybe like 5 months, 6 months ago, maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, but like that's fairly recent. Like that's enough to where like,
and it was just last week nominated for a bunch of Game Awards.
Yeah,
nominated for Game of the
if
Year.
If you're going to release a movie, I mean, that's pretty fucking like on point. Like, okay, we're gonna let Spider-Man have the game have its time, right?
Yeah.
And then when people are kind of like, oh man, I would fucking be really excited to see a fucking animated movie. Right now.
Boom.
Here you go.
Here it is.
Here you go.
And it's like the same. It came out like the same week that Marvel was releasing trailers. So like the Avengers trailer came out, the Captain Marvel trailer. Sadly, the Spider-Man trailer was rumored to be coming out, and it didn't. Roasted. Far From Home.
That's what it's going to be called? Mm-hmm. So Homecoming and then
apparently it's going to be on like a school trip in Europe or something like that.
Okay.
And Jake Gyllenhaal's going to show up and do some...
I don't know jack shit about Mysterio.
Dude, Mysterio is whack-a-doodle. Oh, I'm excited. Woo! Trying to think about... So, do you have any flaws to point out about this movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you?
No? If you give me one, I might agree with you.
Okay, so one thing that kind of bothered me, and I might have just missed something, but the dad, right? So when the dad, there's this really interesting, so like in the Miles Morales universe, like he has this origin story that parallels Peter Parker Spider-Man, or at least the most famous Peter Parker Spider-Man.
Because his uncle dies.
Because of his uncle dying, right? And potential problems that come out of it, right? When
that scene was scary, dude.
Right. So his uncle ends up being one of
he's a villain that works for Kingpin.
That works for Kingpin, right? And it literally gets to a point where, the villain that works for Prowler, right? His uncle is fighting
Mahershala Ali.
Yeah. So he is fighting Miles Morales.
Yeah.
And is literally choking him on the edge of a roof.
Yeah.
Is about to kill him.
Yeah. And
then Miles has to take off his mask and be like,
Uncle Aaron.
Yeah.
Uncle Aaron.
And then fucking Prowler takes off his mask and he's forced to. He's confronted with, oh shit,
can I kill my own nephew?
Can I kill my own nephew? And Kingpin is like literally looking at him, being like, what the fuck are you waiting on? Kill that motherfucker.
And then he lets Miles go. Kingpin pops him.
Yeah. And then Spider-Man
is ruthless, dude.
Spider-Man it takes him away from all of the action because there's this huge fight going on at Aunt May's house. But he takes him to an alley and Uncle Aaron dies, gives his last words to Miles. And as right after he dies, fucking Miles' dad pulls up in a cop car.
Because he saw him swing away and followed him.
And it looks like Spider-Man just killed someone, right? It looks like he's
kneeled down in
front of someone's death.
Yeah.
And Miles turns invisible and gets out of the alley, and Miles' dad, the cop,
Jefferson,
walks up to his brother's dead body,
sees his brother,
and
in a supervillain costume,
and then he puts out an APB for Spider-Man. So in that moment, right? We're supposed to think that he's supposed to think that Spider-Man killed his brother.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, the dad sees that same Spider-Man, right, fighting
Kingpin. Yeah.
And then he starts rooting for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And at the end,
he does the bit. The Miles shows up and talks to him as Spider-Man.
Right. But he says at one point, I'm not sure if he's talking to Spider-Man or somebody else, if he's talking to Miles on the phone, because he's literally talking to Miles on the phone right before he meets Miles as Spider-Man, even though he doesn't know it's Miles.
Yeah.
But he literally says, I thought that Spider-Man killed your uncle.
And now I know.
But
I know.
now I know
someone
that I was
else.
wrong.
Yeah.
Did we see any kind of arc?
I think that
from that.
Well, no, I think he's just connected A to B. He went to he went to Kingpin's building, where underneath there was a super collider going off that could open a black hole to New York City, and he saw several Spider-Men fighting several known supervillains.
Right.
And Kingpin is, yelling shit about wanting to kill him and like I think he just has common sense.
Okay. Like
I don't know if there wasn't a moment where you realized that he realized.
I wanted to see that. To me that arc of him being like Spider-Man is responsible for my brother's death, and then going. I don't feel like that's
because you have to keep in mind that he was also at the scene at Aunt May's house, so he saw all of those supervillains already. So when he saw them again,
and that's fine, that's fine. But I don't think that's something that should be assumed. Like I just felt. From a storytelling sense, like I wanted to.
I mean, for all we know, that exists, and they had to cut it. For all we know,
yeah, like I kind of it reminded me of Venom a little bit because like I had that like wait, hold on, there's something missing here. There's a scene that's missing. That's the way it made me feel.
And it wouldn't be.
I was
it wouldn't
excited
have been much.
because I was excited by the potential dynamic of It happened too late in the movie for it to really happen in this movie, too much. But like I know that there's most likely going to be sequels to this movie.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it would have been a really cool dynamic for them to expand upon in sequels. But the dynamic of Miles being Spider-Man and his dad
thinking Spider-Man killed his brother.
Yeah,
that could be. Yeah,
I was like, man, that could be really fucking fun.
Yeah.
So like when he's like, oh, I thought Spider-Man killed your uncle, but I was wrong. I was just kind of disappointed in that. In the sort of I felt like it was instant, and B, it sort of robbed from a kind of potentially dramatic dynamic that they could
I
have.
didn't even realize it when I was watching. I was swept up in what was happening. That scene is so just visually amazing and and emotionally too. But I mean, I get what you're saying, but I also liked how I felt seeing, the sweet moment they chose. Like they could have chosen to go that way, but they chose to go a more sweet route, where that gave us the scene at the end when Miles does the deep voice and "I love you."
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Officer, we got that scene instead.
Yeah, and that is sweet, but like I also like. I don't know. Like I think you could have. This is nitpicking.
Yeah,
this
you
is
literally.
nitpicking.
It's just a different direction you. Could
I love
have
this
gone.
movie. I love this movie. This is one of the best movies I've seen all year.
Yeah.
So this isn't in any sense like really like they did the wrong thing.
Yeah, it's
because
just
it's not
something
really
different.
It's not really. Yeah, I'm splitting hairs here, but that is a really cool dynamic that they could have gone down. How heartbroken it would be for Miles to like not be able to tell his dad that he's Spider-Man.
Yeah. Did you think? So I know this was a weird thought I had. Did the fact that we have watched and enjoyed the show Daredevil make you more like connect more with Kingpin as a character? Like Kingpin isn't a very super deep character in this movie, but like I attached Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin to this.
But he
Kingpin.
is three-dimensional.
He's much more. He's definitely three-dimensional, but he's not like a main character by any sense or anything like that. But they do a good job of giving him depth.
Yeah.
And motivation for what's going on.
Right.
But
So the whole reason that this multiverse shit is happening
because
is because
of
they have
the super collider.
They have a
that
super
they built.
collider underneath the streets of New York City, and he's literally trying to pull out another family.
His family. So his family left him and then got in a car accident and died because they saw him being evil and they got scared.
Yeah.
So then he's trying to.
They saw him. Well, specifically, they saw him fighting
Spider-Man. Yeah. So he wants to pull out a Vanessa and Richard from a different universe to reunite his family. It's like crazy to think that you could do that.
Yeah.
But it's also, you get why he's doing it. But I attached Vincent D'Onofrio's Daredevil, and I was like, oh, like when he said Vanessa the first time, I was like, like I felt like I knew the origin of that and where that relationship came from. And then I was looking into the future of a future where Vanessa and Wilson Fisk had a family and he lost it. And it just added even more to what they already gave us to me. But I didn't know if that was like a random thing that happened to me only, attaching the character from a different medium.
No, like you have that like residual content, like when you watch anything, right? But like but I was for sure seeing that Kingpin, thinking about Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah.
When I saw Vanessa, like I thought of the actress who plays Vanessa and stuff. Like, and I was like also very like when I watched the flashback scene where he's fighting Spider-Man and Vanessa sees him fighting Spider-Man with her kid, and she's like instantly like, "Oh my god, who are you?" And then
that's not like Vanessa from the show.
I was like, okay, she's a different Vanessa.
She'd be into it.
She's a different Vanessa.
She'd be like, "Get him, Wilson." Yo, did you realize though that he named his kid Dick Fisk?
Wait, hold on. His
kid's name was Richard. You could call him Dick Fisk.
Dick Fisk.
You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful with that. But I thought like Kingpin in the movie is already really well done and fleshed out and given depth as a character, and then just on top of it, other things made it an even richer experience for me, which I thought was interesting. What were your thoughts on the different Spider-Mans?
Okay, I mean it's
the execution of it and everything.
I thought it was incredible. Like
yeah,
I don't really know anything bad to say about it. I think that there might be some people who will get turned off by the wackiness of it.
It's whack
because you have Peter Porker.
Yeah,
you have Spider-Ham.
Yep.
That it's super strange,
dude. When they did the simultaneous origin stories for Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Noir, and Penny Parker.
Yeah,
and they're saying the exact same thing, and then he says, "I was bit by a radioactive pig." I fucking lost it. He's a spider who got bit by a radioactive pig and became Spider-Ham. It's so silly. Like, one of the things that I was like going into the movie, I was like, they were announcing all the characters and the actors playing them, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Spider-Ham's in this," and I was like, "What? You're gonna put Spider-Ham in it? How are you gonna make that work?" And it's flawlessly is the answer. They do it flawlessly. It's amazing. Like, and part of it, I think, as we talked about a little bit earlier, is they do different animation styles for every character, because if you were to follow them back to their universe, we would see them in a world that looks like their animation style. Kind of like how in the post-credit scene, Miguel O'Hara goes to the very beginning, and it's the Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man bit.
Right.
But the world looks like old 1966 Spider-Man,
right.
and then he matches that world. I think like if we followed Peter Porker to his universe, it would be that sort of Looney Tunes animation.
Yeah.
Or if we followed Penny Parker, it'd be that anime animation. Or if we followed Nick Cage, Spider-Man Noir, it would be the wind following him everywhere, and everything smells like rain.
I think Spider-Man Noir is like probably like my aside from the
main characters.
Well, from Peter B. Parker and Miles Morales.
Yeah.
Their dynamic, like Spider-Man Noir,
He's so funny.
I love his bit.
He's so funny.
I love his bit. Like,
it's so good. And they all like. I thought like the end, they all had been characterized enough. Like it's to spread out essentially 6 characters, and to flesh them out just enough that they all get that leaving moment, and they can all be unique and different, and you care about all of them in a way.
Yeah.
It's so, I feel like it's so hard to do, and they did it so masterfully.
Yeah.
Like everyone gets that moment when at the very end when they leave, and like Penny is, thanks for all of us, and then Spider-Man Noir takes the Rubik's Cube with him, and Peter Porker gives him the hammer. It'll fit in your pocket. The hammer.
Huge ass
big
hammer.
Looney Tunes hammer. That killed me. That fight scene where he whipped out the hammer. Oh my! And then he dropped the weight on somebody.
Yeah.
That killed me. It's so funny.
An anvil.
Yeah, an anvil. I just think the balance of it was done so well, and that's just credit to them. It's just amazing.
Another really good thing that we haven't really brought up yet, the music. I thought,
dude, the soundtrack is great.
Yeah.
A lot of hip hop stuff.
Yeah. It's very hip hop inspired, but there's a lot of it's very
pop hip hoppy sound.
It's very produced.
Yeah.
Like synthy.
Yeah. Like
hip-hop.
Vince Staples is literally like sounds like he's through a filter in that one song.
But like when you
I
look
think it
through
was
the
Post
soundtrack,
Malone kicked in the middle of the movie, and I was like, "Is that Post Malone?"
yeah. But when you look through the soundtrack, it's like usually people that especially you probably wouldn't.
No,
listen
I
to
don't
by
really
yourself.
listen to Post Malone. I like Vince Staples a lot, but I haven't listened to a lot
Like
of Vince
there's
Staples'
Post
music.
Malone, Sway Lee.
I only know Sway Lee from that one song from the Black
fucking
Panther
Duckworth.
soundtrack. Dude, I used to think that Duckworth was like
Kendrick Lamar
in an alternate
Yeah.
name, like how what's it is for J. Cole. Oh God,
Kill Edward.
Yeah, Kill Edward is
Right.
just J. Cole.
No,
it's not. It's
Nope.
just someone named Duckworth. He just happens to have the name of Kendrick's real
But
last name.
on top of that, the actual score itself,
Yep.
like and all of the different themes that they were doing for different characters, fucking Prowler's theme is fucking scary as fuck.
Dude,
that distorted scrapiness. Like, I was just like, oh,
that whole
God.
scene scared the shit out of me. When Miles because Miles runs to his uncle's apartment to confide in him and look for guidance, and then Prowler breaks in and he's scared because he thinks it's a supervillain, and then he sees him take the mask off. It's heartbreaking. Like Miles's reaction, that was heartbreaking. I just really felt that. Oh man, movie's so good. It's so good. I'm trying to think if there's other stuff that really stood out to me. I think that Peter B. Parker, Hobo Spider-Man, I think his arc is great. The sort of we see like a sad take on Spider-Man 15 years later. He's overweight and he's lost
after the glory days.
After the glory days, yeah. And he gets revitalized, and I think it's just really sweet, and I really loved it. And like I want to see a movie about Hobo Spider-Man where like I want to see him go resolve things with MJ, and I want to see him I want to see the Mr. Incredible montage where he gets back in shape. Like I want to see more of him. Like and I'm like, oh man, I hope things are going good for Peter B. Parker. Also, how cool does Miles' suit look?
It's fucking dope.
Oh my God. The way they incorporated the spray painting thing, the tagging thing, into him making that suit look so cool. Oh,
okay. Like, how often did you think about the Get Down when you were watching this movie?
Not a lot. I did when he was singing.
There was when I heard about the Get Down, and it was supposed to be this musical set in fucking 1980s,
something
New
like
York,
that. Yeah,
right. Like that. So it's like on the precipice.
It's
of
the beginning of hip hop.
Well, it's like the transition from disco to hip hop.
Yeah.
So you have that like sort of crossover. The best parts of what I thought the Get Down was going to be is actually sort of in this movie.
Yeah.
Like all of like the graffiti style and the cool music and the I don't know, like the overall style and aesthetic of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse had that, because Miles is literally, he does graffiti.
Yeah,
He's a graffiti
he puts tags places and stuff. Yeah.
And his fucking suit is graffiti inspired.
Yeah, he literally he spray painted
painted
Spider-Man
the
suit. Yeah. I thought that the artwork that for the scene, the no expectations scene, that artwork was so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, like everything in this movie visually is beautiful, but like I was like, wow, that's like crazy cool.
Yeah, and one thing that the directors talked about, they said that they wanted to keep everything subjective to Miles, right? And that's something that you can, when you see him doing graffiti, and you look at it, like that it isn't just cool graffiti.
Yeah.
It's not him like just doing something cool, like, and adding to the aesthetic of the movie. Like, it's emotional. Yeah. It's him, like, his art is reflecting who he is.
Yeah. And what his problems at the moment are.
Yeah. And the fact that he just doesn't believe,
like, the
that
moment
there's any
that scene where his uncle brings him down there to do that tagging, and like he has just been assigned an essay about his expectations for himself, and he doesn't want to be at the school where his parents are making him go. He misses his old life where, he went to public school, and he just has this, he feels like more is expected of him than he wants to bear.
Yeah.
And then he makes that really awesome no expectations art. And then he becomes Spider-Man. So your expectations go through the roof. Yeah. And that's something that he
literally right after he takes a picture of his no expectations graffiti art, the spider lands on it, which is a good bit because like they show the spider biting him, and then it courses through his veins, and you see all of his atoms splitting apart.
The 90s, early 2000s DNA shot. Yeah. And then he just kills the spider. Yeah, I mean, we could sit here and just praise things from it forever, but I think the main thing would be go see this movie if you haven't. Even if you're skeptical about the genre or the style, or just
You're not really into fucking Spider-Man,
or if you don't like animated,
and
movies,
especially if you're like I'm kind of sick of Spider-Man movies, and it's
a new take.
and it addresses that.
Yeah.
It's sort of like with the whole like intro bit, they're constantly like aware.
Yep.
And being meta and self-referential about the stupid parts of Spider-Man and like the tiresome aspects of constantly reliving the origin story of Spider-Man too.
So yeah, go see it.
Mm-hmm.
You done? You good?
Yeah. Anything else?
Well, let's next week our poll will be answered.
Mm-hmm.
Will we do an episode on Aquaman or will we do an episode on Bumblebee? I don't know. It's up to you to decide. I think there's probably like a few days left on the poll when this airs.
Nope.
No?
No.
I can't read that without my glasses on.
So this is releasing on the 20th. We're going to be closing it because we have to record.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we have to record it and we have to see it. So.
Yeah.
So it's already decided, but it's not. If you know what I mean. When this comes out, it will have been decided. But at the moment, we don't know the answer. Aquaman or Bumblebee next week. Look forward to it. Also some fun Christmas stuff coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Wink, wink. Who knows?
Yeah.
Something.
Mm.
Yeah. Hit up the show on tcaks pod on Twitter. Hit it up the Chris and Kyle Show on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all podcasting platforms. Like, share, rate, review. Tell your friends. Tell your wife. Tell your kids. Don't hide them. Tell them. He's Chris. ChrisMichaelStott.com for his website. Chris Michael Stott on Instagram. I am Kyle. Davinwell25. Twitter, Instagram. Hit us up. Hit up the show. It's been real. Spider-Man week has been great. I'm looking forward to even more Spider-Man in the coming years. Give me all of the Spider-Man. He's my favorite. I love Spider-Man so much. Happy Spider-Man week, guys. We out.
We out. Stay weird.
The whip.